At Christmas dinner, my aunt teased, "Hope you enjoyed the car we all chipped in for." I just laughed until I noticed everyone was looking at me. I said, "What car?" My uncle turned to my parents, confused. My dad tried to switch the topic, but then my sister whispered, "Wait, they never gave it to you." And that's when everything came apart. Imagine sitting at a family dinner, the air thick with fake smiles and forced laughter, when you realize you're not just at the table. You are the main course. That night, my entire world, everything I thought I knew about my family, shattered into a million pieces. You know that gut-wrenching feeling? The one where everyone at the table suddenly knows something you don't, and you're the punchline of the whole damn joke? Yeah, I know it now. But before I get to that, let me set the scene. I'm Kyle, 27, just a regular guy working in IT. I always try to be the chill one, the peacemaker in the family. You know, bring a nice bottle of wine, offer to help clean up, never make waves. The invisible glue guy, that was me, or so I thought. Everything changed last Christmas. My family isn't huge, but we were always tight-knit. Mom, Dad, my younger sister Emma, and me. Then there's my mom's side, Aunt Susan, Uncle Rob, and their kids, Jake and Liz. Every single Christmas, we'd all cram into Aunt Susan's house. It permanently smelled of cinnamon sticks and some overly sweet Yankee candle. You know the type. It's kitschy, but it was our tradition. From the outside, we probably looked like the perfect family. Laughter, matching pajamas, happy photos by the tree. But if you looked closer, especially over the last couple of years, you'd see the cracks. It started with small things. My dad would always interrupt me when I talked about anything personal. A new project, my apartment, even my promotion last spring. He'd just steer the conversation away, like my life was uncomfortable for him. And my mom? She'd suddenly find something urgent in the kitchen if I tried to ask about family finances or any plans beyond surface-level small talk. It got worse after college. I worked my butt off to pay my own way, scholarships, part-time jobs, the whole grind. Meanwhile, Emma had a different path. Community college. Dropped out after 2 semesters, then bounced between retail and travel. I never judged her, not out loud. We all move at our own pace, right? What really started to get to me, though, was how differently my parents treated us. Emma, brand new iPhone every other year. Me, I bought my own. She got a used Toyota Corolla. When she turned 20, I was still catching buses after graduation until I finally saved up for a dented Honda Civic with almost 200,000 miles on it. I told myself, she's the baby. They're just helping her find her way. It stung, yeah, but I convinced myself it didn't matter. I was independent. I didn't need their help. Still, a part of me couldn't shake the feeling that the scoreboard was seriously lopsided. So last Christmas, that's really when everything started to unravel. It began normally enough. I showed up with gifts, wearing my ridiculously festive Christmas sweater, and hugged my way through the door. Aunt Susan was already 2 glasses deep into her holiday sangria, laughing her head off at something Jake said. Emma, of course, was already on the floor, unwrapping her gifts early. She always got special treatment, couldn't wait, while the rest of us followed the schedule like disciplined little elves. Dinner was pure chaos. Too many side dishes, not enough gravy. Someone forgot the rolls. Probably me, because it was always me. We were all crammed around Aunt Susan's extended table, one of those wobbly folding ones that shake every time someone cuts their ham. I was stuck between Uncle Rob and Liz, who was way too engrossed in TikTok to engage. Conversation bounced around, work, politics, the usual family gossip. Then came the moment. Aunt Susan raised her glass, dessert plate still on the table, and in that way only wine-loosened relatives can. She beamed at me and said, "Well, I hope you like the car we all pitched in for." At first, I just laughed. I genuinely thought it was a joke. I mean, they always tease me about my ancient Civic. So I grinned back and said, "Yeah, right, nice one." But then the table went silent. Like, sitcom-level silent. Forks stopped midair. Even Emma looked up from her phone. And suddenly, everyone was looking at me. My parents, my sister, Aunt Susan, Uncle Rob, the cousins, all of them. That's when I heard myself say it. "What car?" Uncle Rob's face crumpled in confusion. He turned to my dad. "Wait, you guys didn't give it to him?" My dad let out this forced laugh and mumbled something like, "Oh, well, let's not get into that now." But I was already scanning faces. Something was deeply, terribly wrong. My mom suddenly got super busy folding her napkin into microscopic triangles. Emma leaned in toward me, whispering, "Wait, They never gave it to you? And that was it. That was the moment something inside me cracked. The moment I knew there was something I wasn't supposed to know. Something massive. My stomach just dropped. I didn't say anything at first. I just looked around the table, trying to piece it together from their expressions. Aunt Susan looked genuinely confused. Uncle Rob looked profoundly uncomfortable. My parents, they looked caught, like two people who thought they'd gotten away with something, only to suddenly find themselves under a blinding spotlight. I tried to keep my voice steady. What do you mean? Gay what to me? Emma looked like she regretted saying anything, but it was too late. The thread had been pulled. I could feel the tension thickening in the room, like the air itself was warning me not to ask too many questions. But I wasn't backing off. Not this time. Not after years of brushing off little slights and unequal treatment. Aunt Susan set her glass down slowly. Rob and I, we gave your parents some money this summer. We wanted to help out. You mentioned your car was breaking down, so we figured. She trailed off. Uncle Rob picked it up. Yeah, we all chipped in. Even Jake and Liz added something. Your dad said he'd take care of the paperwork and surprise you on your birthday. My birthday was in August. It was December. No car. No surprise. No mention. I didn't get angry, not visibly. I just sat there, nodding slowly, my heart pounding like a drum. I turned to my dad. So where is it? He didn't answer right away. My mom cleared her throat. Kyle, we didn't want to overwhelm you. You just moved apartments, and we thought maybe a new car would complicate your finances. I just stared at her. You thought a working car would complicate things? My voice was quiet, but I could feel the heat rising in my chest. My uncle was frowning now. Wait, you didn't even tell him? My dad shifted in his chair. We were just waiting for the right time. Emma, bless her, said exactly what I was thinking. That's such garbage. You guys took the money and never told him. She sounded genuinely appalled, and that's when I saw the flicker in my mom's eyes. Defensive, cornered. We didn't take it, she said. We used it where it was needed. I turned to her. Where was it needed, Mom? Her lips pressed into a thin line. My dad glanced at her, then back at me. He tried to smile to downplay it. Kyle, we'll talk about this later. But I was done waiting for later. My pulse was racing. My hands were shaking under the table. And I had a feeling, an awful, burning suspicion, that the answer to that question was going to hurt. Bad. And then Aunt Susan asked it out loud. Wait, what did you use it for? Silence. And then Emma's voice, small but sharp. Oh my God, you gave it to her, didn't you? And that was when the whole damn thing began to unravel. Honestly, I don't think I even processed what Emma had said for a good 10 seconds. You know how your brain sometimes buffers information when it's just too much at once? That's exactly how it felt. Everyone at the table was still, absolutely still, like a freeze frame in a movie. Even Liz had put her phone down. That's how you know something serious is happening. Emma leaned back in her chair, arms crossed, jaw tight. She wasn't looking at me. She was staring directly at our parents. My mom let out this little scoff, that performative, offended kind of noise she makes when someone has the audacity to call her out. That's a very serious accusation, Emma, she said, her eyes flicking toward me, probably hoping I'd somehow magically diffuse the tension. But Emma didn't back down. You used the car money, didn't you? Just not for Kyle. You gave it to me. Her voice cracked a little at the end. Didn't you? My dad just looked down at his plate. Mom pressed her fingers to her temples like she had a migraine. That's not fair, she muttered. That's not what happened. Aunt Susan wasn't having it. Then what did happen? She demanded. Because it sure sounds like you took a gift meant for Kyle. And what? Repurposed it. Silence again. Until my dad finally sighed. We were just trying to be practical. Emma had no car, no job, no direction. She needed it more. I blinked. I also didn't have a car, Dad. He shook his head. You had that Civic, which was literally breaking down every month. My voice was rising now. I wasn't yelling yet, but it was sharp. Remember when the brakes went out on the freeway? I told you about that. You laughed and said, that's part of the car experience. I felt like my chest was going to explode. The realization was sinking in, slow and awful. The money, pitched in for me by extended family, by people who actually cared, was funneled into yet another one of Emma's impulsive life decisions. And I hadn't been told. I hadn't even been considered. It wasn't like we just handed her a car, Mom said quickly, trying to steer the narrative before it completely spiraled. She needed to get back on her feet. She had interviews. She was trying. She quit that job 2 weeks after she got it. I snapped. Emma flinched. And you didn't just hand her a car. You bought her a 2019 Mazda. I saw it on Instagram. Leather seats. Sunroof. Emma even posted a video of her manifesting abundance while driving to Starbucks. I didn't know that money came from them, Emma said quietly, not meeting anyone's eyes. They told me they were just helping out. They didn't say anything about it being meant for you. Because if she knew, I said bitterly, even she would have said no. Emma opened her mouth to say something, then shut it. That stung, in its own way. Because the truth is, if our roles were reversed, if I had been given something meant for her, I would have said no. I would have insisted it go to her. I had done that kind of thing before, more than once. I trusted you, I said, looking directly at my dad. You could have told me. You could have asked me. But instead, you just, what? Took a gift and rerouted it like a bank transfer? My dad had the nerve to look annoyed. We didn't think you'd need it. You always figure things out. Oh. I laughed. A hollow, sharp sound. So this is my punishment for being responsible? My mom cut in, her voice rising with that classic defensive edge. It's not a punishment. You don't understand the pressure we've been under. Emma was lost. We had to do something. She's been struggling. We've all been struggling. I shot back, but only one of us got a brand new car because of it. The table was deathly quiet again. Uncle Rob looked like he was physically holding back from saying something he'd regret. Aunt Susan wasn't even trying to hide her feelings. Her expression was pure, unfiltered disgust. I'm sorry, she said slowly, but that's not okay. That's not how gifts work. That money was for Kyle. My mom waved a hand. We'll pay it back. I laughed again, harder this time. No, you won't. You haven't even acknowledged what you did, let alone apologized. You're just trying to sweep it under the rug because it got exposed. Enough. Dad said, let's not ruin Christmas. And that was the moment. That was the exact moment I broke. Ruin Christmas? I said, standing up so suddenly the chair scraped loudly against the floor. No, Dad, you already ruined Christmas. You just thought you'd get away with it. And guess what? You almost did. My hands were trembling. I wasn't crying. I never cry in front of them. But I could feel my throat tighten. All the years of quiet disrespect, of being treated like the backup child, of being expected to carry my own weight. While Emma got bailed out time and time again, it was all bubbling to the surface. You've always done this, I said, my voice shaking. Always. I got good grades. No one cared. I paid my way through college. No one even said congratulations. I get promoted? Crickets. But Emma takes a painting class, and you act like she cured cancer. That's not true. Mom said weakly. It is true. Emma whispered. Kyle's right. Heads turned. My mom looked like someone had slapped her. Emma, I didn't know. Emma repeated, louder now. I didn't know they gave you money for him. And now that I do, I don't want the car. You're being dramatic. Dad said, no. Emma said, standing up too. You're the ones who made this a mess. Not him. There it was. The turning point. The crack that widened. I wasn't sure whether to be grateful for Emma's support or even angrier at how long it took her to realize the truth. I felt like I'd been gaslit my entire life into thinking I was a selfish one, the difficult one, when really I'd just been asking for basic fairness. I'm going home, I said. Finally, I've had enough. Kyle, my mom started, but I held up a hand. Don't. Please, just don't. Aunt Susan stood too. You're not the one who should be leaving, she said, glaring at my parents. You should be ashamed. Uncle Rob was already pulling on his coat. Jake and Liz followed without a word. Emma stood frozen, torn between guilt and defiance. I didn't wait to see how the rest had unfolded. I just walked out the door, got into my Rust Bucket Civic, and drove off into the freezing night. It wasn't until I hit the main road that the tears finally came. Not because of the car, not even because of the money, but because it finally clicked. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a pattern, a choice. One they'd made over and over again, no matter how hard I worked or how much I gave. And this time, it was one betrayal too many. I got home, parked under the flickering streetlight outside my apartment, and just sat there for a while in the cold, thinking, replaying every moment of that dinner, every moment of every year that came before it. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. And that was when I started planning. The days after Christmas felt like I was floating underwater. Everything moved slower. sounded muffled and felt heavier. I went back to work the next morning. What else was I going to do? Sit in my apartment and stew in silence? My office was half empty anyway, with most people taking vacation. I actually liked that. It gave me time to breathe. No calls from my parents. Not even a text. Not a sorry or a let's talk. I guess I shouldn't have expected anything. But some stupid part of me still hoped they'd reach out, that they'd realize how deeply they'd hurt me. But they didn't. Not that day. Not the next. Not that week. Emma texted me on the 28th. Emma, hey, you okay? Me, not really. Emma, I didn't know. I swear. Me, I know. Emma, I'm giving the car back. I stared at that message for a long time. I wanted to say thank you. I wanted to say she didn't have to do that. But I didn't trust myself to say the right thing, so I just sent a thumbs up emoji and left it there. I didn't want to be bitter toward her, even if a part of me still was. But mostly I was just tired. Something shifted in me after that dinner. It wasn't like a lightning bolt moment where I suddenly became a new man. It was quieter, more like a slow unfreezing, a cold, hard realization that I'd spent so much of my life begging for acknowledgement, for validation, for scraps of attention that would never come unless they served someone else's narrative. And now I was done. I didn't rage. I didn't scream. I didn't post some long, cryptic Facebook status. I just started over, quietly. The first thing I did was clean my apartment from top to bottom, not out of boredom or some Sutta Marie Kondo inspiration. It was more symbolic. I threw out anything that reminded me of home. Childhood photos, old birthday card with generic love, mom and dad, scrolled at the bottom. Even the quilt my mom made me in college. It was harsh, I knew that, but I needed space, literal and emotional. Then I sat down and took stock of my life. I was 27. I had a steady job, modest but reliable. I wasn't rich, but I wasn't struggling. No debt. My car, ancient as it was, still ran, barely, but it got me from point A to B. I had a few friends, a decent gym nearby, and a notebook full of ideas I kept promising myself I'd explore when life calms down. Well, life was calm now. Not in a peaceful way, more like the silence after storm. But I decided that was enough. I pulled out that notebook, flipped past all the crossed-out ideas, and landed on one I'd written nearly 2 years ago. Start the side project. Build something for yourself. It was vague, like most of my someday goals, but I knew exactly what it meant. There was a software tool I'd always wanted to build, a user-friendly back-end system for small businesses to track clients, invoices, and internal communications without needing a tech team. It wasn't glamorous, but I saw the gap in the market. I'd pitched it once to a coworker who brushed it off like, sounds like too much work. But I knew it could work. I just never believed I had the time or the support. Now I had nothing but time, and no one I needed to answer to. So I started. Evenings, weekends, late nights. I chipped away at it slowly, quietly. I didn't tell anyone. It was mine, just mine. At the same time, I started taking care of myself more, not in a flashy way. I wasn't about to become a CrossFit guy or post protein shake pics on Instagram, but I started waking up earlier, walking to work instead of driving. I cooked instead of ordering takeout. I stopped checking my family's group chat. I muted them all. Aunt Susan messaged me around New Year's. She said she was still furious and wanted to know if I was okay. I told her I appreciated her, but I needed some space for a while. She understood. By mid-January, the project was starting to take shape. I called it brickwork, because I liked the idea of something solid, something you build brick by brick. It wasn't pretty yet, but it worked. It was the first time in a long time I felt proud of something that had no strings attached. Then came the weird part. People started noticing. It started with my manager. He pulled me aside one day after I submitted a clean little tool I'd written to automate some internal reports. "Where'd you learn to build this?" he asked. "Just something I've been working on in my spare time," I said. He raised an eyebrow. "You ever think of spinning that into a product?" I shrugged. "Maybe." He smiled. "If you do, let me know. I might be interested." And just like that, a door cracked open. Not wide, not all at once, but it opened. By February, I had a beta version of Brickwork. I offered it to 2 local businesses I found through small business forums. Free trials, just to see if it solved any pain points. They loved it. One of them actually offered to pay me to keep using it. That night, I sat on my couch and stared at the email for almost 15 minutes. Not because I didn't believe it, but because it was the first time I felt like I was in control. Not my parents, not my job, me. And then, out of nowhere, just as I was beginning to breathe again, I got a call from my mom. I didn't pick up. Let go to voicemail. Then came a text. Mom, can we talk? Mom, please, it's important. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the reply button. I didn't answer. Not that day. Not the next. A week later, Emma showed up at my door. I was surprised. More than surprised. She'd never just shown up before. She was holding a box. I brought your stuff, she said. She looked different. Tired. Older, somehow, like the weight of everything had finally caught up to her. I stepped aside and let her in. She placed the box on the counter. It's just some photos, some of your books. Stuff I thought you might want. I nodded. Thanks. We stood there awkwardly for a moment. She finally spoke. They're freaking out. Mom's crying every day. Dad's pretending like everything's fine, but he's not. Do they know they messed up? I asked. Emma nodded. Yeah, and they're scared. Because I told them I gave the car back. I raised my eyebrows. You actually did it? She nodded again. Sold it. Used some money to pay off some of my credit card debt. Put the rest into a used Honda. Nothing fancy. But I don't feel like I'm stealing anymore. That hit me harder than I expected. She sat down. I want to fix things with you. I really do. I know I've been kind of oblivious. I sat across from her. You weren't the problem. Maybe not, she said, but I didn't help. I let them turn you into the strong one, so I could be the lost one. That's not fair. We talked for over 2 hours. About everything. About childhood. About expectations. About the subtle ways favoritism eats at someone over time. She apologized for real, and I believed her. When she left, she hugged me tight. You're doing great, she said, her eyes watering. Don't let them mess that up again. I nodded. I won't. She smiled. I told Mom you were building something. She looked like she was going to cry. I didn't say anything. I didn't owe them access to this part of my life. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But the truth is, I was building something. A life. A project. A future that wasn't tied to their approval. And as the weeks passed, things kept growing. Brickwork landed another client, then another. I started researching how to register an LLC. I even reached out to an old friend who worked in marketing. She agreed to help with branding, no charge. One night in March, I sat at my desk, looking at the modest earnings from my side project, and realized something. I didn't need their car. I didn't need their money. I didn't need their validation. I had me. I had rebuilt from the ashes of betrayal that should have broken me, and I did it without yelling, without revenge. But I'll admit something else, too. That wasn't the end. Because what happened next, what they tried to do once they realized I had something valuable, that's when the real story began. And this time, I wasn't going to let them take anything. It was sometime in late April when I got the message that made my stomach clench. Not out of fear, though. It was that strange, simmering emotion that sits between disbelief and fury. I had just finished a client onboarding call for Brickwork when I noticed a new email in my personal inbox. Subject line, Family Business Collaboration Opportunity. It was from my mom. I stared at it for a long time, as if the subject might morph into something else if I blinked hard enough. For a moment, I debated deleting it without reading. But curiosity and that simmering fury got the better of me. I opened it. Kyle, honey, I hope you're doing well. I know we haven't talked much lately, but I've been meaning to reach out. Your father and I were so proud to hear from Emma about the software you've been building. It sounds incredible. We actually had an idea. As you know, your Uncle Jerry is expanding his contracting business and has been struggling with organization. He mentioned needing a platform to manage his jobs and clients, and I immediately thought of you. Would you be willing to set him up with your program? It would be a great opportunity to showcase your work, and it might lead to more exposure if his partners get interested. I'm happy to help coordinate it. Let me know. We're all rooting for you. Love, Mom. I couldn't stop myself from laughing. It was a humorless laugh, the kind that comes from a place so tired of being played that you start finding the manipulation almost artistic. They're all rooting for me now, huh? I thought, funny how quickly people remember you exist when you have something they want. Uncle Jerry, for context, was my dad's older brother. He ran a decent-sized construction and renovation business. Nothing corporate, but he had money. He also had a history of favoring family when it suited him, which usually meant getting things for free on the guise of helping you get your name out there. I wasn't going to bite. At least, not like they expected. But that email lit a spark in me. Not of revenge, not yet, but of pure clarity. I suddenly understood what power felt like. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, calm, and sat patiently in your chest while people tried to exploit you, giving you the luxury of watching them squirm. When they realized you weren't who they thought you were anymore. I waited 2 days before replying. Hi, Mom. Thanks for reaching out. That's an interesting idea. Could you give me more details about what Uncle Jerry would need and what kind of licensing agreement he'd be open to? I'm happy to discuss rates and timelines once I understand the scope. Best, Kyle. I didn't get a reply right away. When I did, it came from Uncle Jerry himself. Hey, kid, heard you built some kind of software. That's awesome. Your mom said it might help us keep track of our invoices and job sites. I'm not super techie, but if you can get us set up and train the office girl, we'd be happy to test it out. Let's call a family favor. Let me know when you're free to swing by the office. Jerry. Family favor. Of course. No mention of payment. No mention of partnership. Just an assumption that I'd be thrilled to help for free, because that's what I always did. And that's when the revenge seed was planted. I didn't respond. Not right away. I needed to think. I needed a plan. First, I called Emma. Okay, she said after I read her the emails. That's audacious. I laughed. Yeah, it's also the opening I've been waiting for. What do you mean? I mean, they just handed me a golden opportunity. They think I'm still the same guy who bends over backward for family, who accepts crumbs and smiles. You're not. No, I said, I'm not. I didn't tell her everything. Not yet, but I asked her a favor. A big one. I need you to get close to them again, just for a while. Tell them you've forgiven them. Let them think everything's normal again. She hesitated. Kyle, I know it's a lot to ask, and I'm not saying you have to lie, but I need you to be my eyes and ears for a bit. I want to know what they're planning, what they're saying when I'm not around. There was a long silence on the line. Okay, she said finally, I'll do it. Over the next few weeks. Emma kept me updated. They're bragging about you now, she said during one call, telling everyone you're some tech genius, acting like they supported you the whole time. I rolled my eyes. Classic. Also, Mom's been telling people you're building software for family, like it's some joint venture. I felt my jaw tighten. Let her. It'll make what I'm planning even more satisfying. By May, brickwork was running strong. I had 6 paying clients, a small monthly income stream, and 2 friends helping part-time. One handled outreach and marketing. The other, a college buddy named Jonah, helped with UI design. They were the first 2 people I told about my plan. You want to what? Jonah asked. I want to build a tailored version of brickwork for Uncle Jerry's business. Just good enough to impress him. But it'll be a trial version, limited functionality, no long-term support. Once he's hooked, we roll out a licensing contract. Nothing shady. All above board, but with real numbers. And if he refuses to pay? I smiled. Then we pull the plug. Won't your family lose it? I nodded. Yep. And that's the point. We called it Project Masonry. A custom skin of brickwork with tweaks for contracting workflows. Jonah designed to look polished, but made sure to build in toggles we could control remotely. My marketing friend, Priya, helped draft a licensing contract that looked professional, complete with trial dates, usage limits, and optional support tiers. In mid-June, I emailed Uncle Jerry. Hi, Jerry. Thanks for your patience. I put together a demo for your business based on what Mom described. I'd be happy to show it to you and your team next week. This version includes a free 30-day trial, after which you'll have the option to license the software under a monthly or annual plan. Let me know what day works for you. Kyle, he replied within hours. Suddenly very enthusiastic. Sounds great. We'll make time for you Monday morning. Looking forward to seeing what you've built. Emma told me later that my parents were thrilled. Mom was walking around saying, see, everything's falling into place. That weekend, I even got a call from my dad. It had been months since we'd spoken. Hey, kiddo, he said, like nothing had ever happened. Your mom said you've been working hard. We're proud of you. Thanks. Glad you're helping Jerry out. He's got a lot on his plate. I'm helping me out, I said calmly. It's a business arrangement, not a favor. There was a pause, then a weak chuckle. Sure, of course. But hey, once the system's up and running, maybe you could swing by the house, have dinner with us. Maybe, I said. I could feel the shift in power. They didn't know how to talk to me anymore. I wasn't a fallback option. I was a guy holding the keys. Monday came. I wore a blazer. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to feel sharp, professional, unshakable. Jerry's office was small but clean. His assistant showed me to the conference room. Jerry greeted me with a loud, "There he is, the genius himself," and a firm handshake, like we were old pals. I gave the demo. He was impressed, more than impressed. "This is exactly what we need," he said, beaming. "You built this all yourself?" I nodded. "With a small team." He clapped me on the back. "Well done. You will put QuickBooks out of business at this rate." Then came the contract. I handed it over. His smile faltered just slightly. "What's this licensing agreement?" "After the 30-day trial, you can choose a plan that fits your business." I explained. "Tiered option for support and features. Pretty standard." He flipped through it. "Wasn't expecting this to be so formal." "I treat all my clients the same," I said, looking him dead in the eye. "Family included." There it was. The moment I saw in his face, the realization that I wasn't going to give this away, that the kid he dismissed as quiet and too nice had grown up. He hesitated. "Can we take a day to think it over?" "Of course," I said, smiling. "You have 30. I left feeling weightless. Not because I had secured a client, but because I had flipped the script. They wanted me now, needed me, and they had to play by my rules. But this was just the setup. Because what came next? When the trial expired, when the system shut down, when they scrambled to figure out what happened and who had control, that would be the moment they realized. I wasn't just the good son anymore. I was the one they never saw coming. The 30-day trial ended on a Tuesday. Uncle Jerry's assistant, Claire, was the first to notice. I got the email around 10:42 a.m. Subject: urgent. System issues, brickwork down. She sounded panicked. She said the invoices weren't loading. The job logs were missing. Jerry couldn't see any of the subcontractor assignments or pending payments. I waited exactly 2 hours before replying. "Claire, thanks for your message. The trial period for the custom brickwork installation, Project Masonry, expired this morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. As outlined in the licensing agreement, the software has now reverted to limited access mode. To restore full functionality, please have Mr. Ortega review and sign the licensing terms. Then proceed with the first payment. Once received, the platform will be reactivated within 2 business hours. Best, Kyle Allen, Brickwork Solutions." Short, polite, bulletproof. It took 3 more hours for Jerry to call me. I let it ring twice before answering. "Kyle," he said, "skipping any kind of greeting. The software is down. We got projects due, invoices pending, and this thing just shut off without warning." "It didn't shut off," I said calmly. "The trial expired." "But I thought you had 30 days. It was in the contract. Page 3. He was silent for a second. "Then we need it back up today." "No problem," I said, keeping my tone pleasant. "Just send back the signed licensing agreement and the first payment. I'll process it within the hour." "You're really going to charge family for this?" he demanded. "You're running a business, Jerry." "So, am I? I thought you wanted exposure." "I do. Exposure and compensation." His tone turned cold. "You think this is smart? Making enemies in the family?" "No," I said. "I think letting people walk over me for 27 years was stupid. This is smart." He hung up. I sat back, heart pounding, but not from fear, from adrenaline, because for the first time in my life, I had enforced a boundary, and I'd done it with nothing but my brain and a well-worded contract. By the end of the week, Jerry still hadn't paid. The system remained locked. Claire emailed again, then called. I didn't respond. On Friday, I got a group text. "Dad, can we talk?" "Mom, this is getting ridiculous, Kyle. Your uncle is trying to run a business, and you're playing games." "Dad, just make it work for now. We'll figure out payment later." I didn't reply. A few minutes later, Emma texted me separately. "Emma, they're spiraling. Mom said you're damaging the family name. Dad told Aunt Susan that you're being ungrateful." Emma and Aunt Susan. Emma, apparently she screamed. "He's the only one in this family who's earned anything on his own." Emma, it got ugly. I smiled at that. Later that night, I got a call from Aunt Susan. I picked up. "Well," she said without a hello, "I think it's safe to say you've shaken the tree." I chuckled. Didn't mean to make Thanksgiving awkward. "Please," she scoffed. "It was already awkward since 2008. Then she grew serious. "I'm proud of you, Kyle. Really, I know this hasn't been easy." "It hasn't," I admitted, "but it's been worth it." "Good," she said, "because your parents need to learn the hard way. And maybe this time they finally will." Over the next 2 weeks, word began to spread. I hadn't told anyone outside my inner circle. But apparently Jerry complained to the wrong people, and those people started asking, "Wait, what's brickwork?" I got 3 demo requests within a month, 2 from unrelated businesses, and 1 from a competitor of Jerry's. I said yes to all 3. It was poetic. Then came the message I didn't expect. "Mom, Kyle would like to meet in person. No tricks, no yelling, just talk." It had been nearly 5 months since I last saw them face to face. I thought long and hard before agreeing, but I wanted to see them, not to make peace, but to finish this. We met at a neutral spot, a small cafe downtown. I got there first. They showed up 5 minutes late. Mom wore sunglasses, even though it was overcast. Dad looked profoundly uncomfortable. Good. I didn't stand to greet them, just nodded. We sat in silence for a bit before Mom spoke. "You've made your point." I raised an eyebrow. "Which one?" She sighed. "That we hurt you. That we were wrong to keep the car from you. That we took advantage. That's not even half of it." I said, "But go on." Dad leaned forward. "Look, Kyle, we're sorry. Okay? We messed up and we know that now. But dragging Jerry into this, you didn't have to go that far. You dragged Jerry into this." I corrected him. "When you told him I'd build something for free." Dad looked away. Mom swallowed hard. "It wasn't about money." "It's always about money," I said, my voice low. "You didn't think I was worth investing in when I needed it. But the moment I created something valuable, suddenly I'm a family project." Mom's eyes glistened. "We just want to be proud of you. You could have been proud of me when I graduated with honors." I countered. "When I worked 2 jobs to pay rent. When I fixed my own car brakes in the middle of winter. You had years to be proud of me." They both went quiet. "You didn't want to be proud," I continued. "You wanted credit. You wanted to say, 'Look what our son built,' without actually helping me build it." "We're your parents," Dad said, his voice quiet. "That still means something." I nodded. "It does. It means you had more chances than anyone else to support me, and you wasted them." Mom sniffled. "Is there anything we can do to fix it?" I thought about that. 2 things, I said. "First, I don't want your money. Not now. Not ever. I don't want birthday checks, investment opportunities, or anything that makes me beholden to you." They nodded slowly. "And second, you apologize to Emma." They looked confused. "She gave the car back," I said. "She stepped up. She told the truth. She's owned her part in this. You owe her that much." "I thought this was about you," Mom said softly. "It was," I said, standing up. "Now it's about what kind of people you want to be." I left them there, still sitting in that booth, looking smaller than I'd ever seen them. I didn't need a grand confrontation. I didn't need them to beg. I just needed them to see. The fallout came slowly. Word got around that Jerry's business had to pause some projects while they transitioned back to manual processes. He eventually hired a cheap CRM tool that didn't work nearly as well. Emma said he grumbled about kid these days and software ransom, but never once acknowledged the contract he signed or the deal he ignored. As for my parents, they went quiet. I think they realized the damage was deeper than they thought, that I wasn't angry for a week. I was changed, and I had no interest in pretending anymore. Brickwork continued to grow. I onboarded a dozen new clients over summer. Eventually, I left my full-time job to focus on it completely. Jonah and Priya became full partners. We formed an LLC. We even pitched to a small investor group that showed interest. Things were moving fast, and I felt lighter than I had in years. Emma and I got closer, not just because of the car situation, but because she'd grown, too. She started working full-time, slowly paying down her debts, building something of her own. She apologized again and again, and I kept telling her she didn't have to. "You're the only one who ever turned around," I told her once. She smiled. "You just made it impossible to look away." That fall, I bought a new car. Not flashy, not a flex, just something reliable, clean, mine. When the dealer handed me the keys, he said, "Big milestone, huh?" I looked down at the keys in my hand and smiled. "No," I said, "just the next step." Because revenge wasn't about destruction. Not for me. It was about clarity. About rebuilding from the ashes of someone else's selfishness and making something so strong they couldn't touch it. And in the end, that was everything.